right, Adam. So today, this is a topic that I keep on exploring. It's very important for men in general. So I want to get real about men, about love, about the inner blocks that men carry, and a lot of men are stuck with. We see a lot of successful people on the outside, and the inside. There's a lot of people hurting, especially once I get to know them. I can start speaking to them. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and let's get real. Let's go really deep on this topic.
Which topic? Which topic are we
The
going into?
topic that we're going in on is men, their inner blocks, the love that men show up with, and how they process stuff from the inside.
Nice. Okay, let's do it.
So let's get right into it. And without any filters, what do you think is the reason so many men struggle in love?
Oh, that's a great question. And I can actually speak from my own experience, but I would say, if I had to say it in one sentence, is most men don't know how to feel. They don't know how to feel their feelings. And what a woman is going to do is she's going to bring you into your emotional side. Now, as men, we are very good at pursuing, performing, providing, protecting. But there's one P that we are not good at is sitting with pain. We don't know how to sit with our life experience and or speak our truth without a certain sense of shame. So most men, and my wife taught me this actually yesterday, we were having a deep discussion for over 2 hours. It was wonderful. And she was telling me, it was like, so it was mind blowing, is that, yeah, women are more emotional. So they are more overt in a certain sense with their pain. And men, when they're going through pain, they do it in silence. And for most men today, what's breaking them is the fact that they're doing it in silence. It's almost like a suppression.
Right. And why is that? Like, I would think men, women were created and equal in a certain sense, and let us be open to our emotions. Why do we keep it in?
So, as men, for sure, the difference in how we experience life, because we are men and we have a masculine and feminine part to us because we come from a man and a woman. But as men, we have to face the world. We're entrusted with this mission that you're going to go out into the world. Right? When the Torah speaks about soldiers, men soldiers, and even primarily, not from a chauvinistic standpoint, but a woman is there to create the atmosphere of the home, and the man is there to go out into the world and provide. So naturally, we have to shut off our emotions because we can't necessarily just go and wear our heart on our sleeve going out and having to face the world. So you have to somewhat turn off and shut off and just go and face. And as a soldier, but then I have to learn how to reconnect that when I come back home, my wife's available in there that I can again open up emotionally.
Right.
And you think about a mother, her job is to like raise the child to feel good about life and himself and the home that they come back to, and they can always come back to themselves. And a father's there to teach you how to face the world.
Hmm.
Difference between masculine and feminine.
I think there's an analogy that I like giving over about that. The man leaves the house. When he leaves the house to potentially go to war to protect his family, to go out for business. And when he leaves the house, he needs to put on a mask because he can't be this vulnerable person in the battlefield. And now he comes home at the end of the day. So the masculine is someone that goes out into the world, like you're saying. And when he comes home, the feminine, what's the feminine? The core feminine is total safety and freedom and expression. So it's the woman's job that when the man comes home, for her to help the man take off his mask and be that vulnerable self and tap into his feminine and not stay stuck because he just went to war, he just went for business, and it's a doggy dog world out there, and he had to scream and get angry sometimes because that's what men have to do to protect their families.
Yeah. And if your wife is a fully embodied feminine, so it's going to be much easier for you to be in your masculine because your different energies that exist and her in her rightful place means that she can fully be that free, open, safe,
Well,
loving woman.
well, let me ask you something on that.
Yeah.
If my wife is in her full feminine, but I'm not in my full masculine, wouldn't that trigger me greatly? Because it's almost like the feminine has an expectation that the man has to fill his role, and if I'm not in my full masculine, then the feminine is going to push me and trigger me. Then what happens then?
So I would say first of all, I don't think a woman could be in her full feminine if her husband's not in his full masculine because the way it works is that we're balancing out energies here. So there's what a man has to do at a house and a woman has to do at a house. How the man shows up to the world and the woman is there at home and being there for the kids and creating that environment. If I'm not doing my part as a man and going out into the world, and let's say I just don't feel like working, money's not coming in, okay? So then my wife might get triggered and get scared. She doesn't feel safe anymore. She doesn't feel like she can provide that environment because she doesn't have resources to make that happen. So now she has to turn on this resourcefulness and go out and step into my role and maybe work, which some people do. I've heard of this story.
Wow.
And she doesn't have permission to fully be in her feminine. But if a in a relationship someone realizes they're out of balance, I believe that people could tune into that, and it takes one person to raise the vibration of the relationship. I do really believe it takes one person to change because both parties, when you're, and I'll talk about just different stages of relationship because I've talked about this a lot, but the different stages of relationship are first when you meet someone, you're in a romantic stage. You're very much attracted to each other without seeing any or covering over the flaws of the person because you feel like everything's amazing, everything's great. You feel that sense of like a spell, it's infatuation. And then I would say the day that you get married basically is you go through the what's called the power struggle where you're seeing your point of view and from your point of view what that person needs to work on, you're not seeing yourself. To graduate to the next level, I need to be able to start looking at myself, living life from the inside out to get to a place which is called real love, where I can approach as a healthy individual my wife, because she's shown me all my weak points by triggering me. And we're in the power struggle stage that one person says, I'm going to do work on myself. And now, by definition, the other person either has to continue to catch up to that person or the relationship will not be able to exist. It will be the breakdown because we're totally in different places. But it does take one person to raise the vibration. So if your wife's, let's say, is going to go into her feminine, she's going to fully embody what a feminine woman is, and she's doing that as a process of working on herself, she's going to force her husband into the masculine. So you will have to if you want to keep the relationship alive.
Right. Right. So another question, maybe it's a little um, related. Okay, so I know this. I could step into my masculine, or my wife could step into her feminine, and yet we see men not doing it. They keep repeating the same mistakes. They keep fighting. It's really the same fight over and over again in that relationship. And it's almost like if I'm watching from the outside, I'm just seeing some guy bang his head against the wall. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so what's the question?
So the question is, why do men keep doing that? Like, why can't they just get the message? Okay, move on, work on yourself.
Because we are not, well, that would be the power struggle, and we're not getting married, especially originally at the beginning for growth. We're getting married because we want that this person should fill a void in our lives. That's how we start life. It's like when everything's lovely and it's amazing and we're feeling good in the romantic stage, We feel like this person completes me. We can even say those words, you complete me, I love you, hare atamekudeshesli, whatever that means. It's like you have no idea what you're about to get into. You get into the power struggle and you realize that you married your wife because you wanted to feel safe. You wanted to have love in your life. You wanted to feel wanted. You wanted to feel in control. Whatever it is, we think love is supposed to validate us, not challenge us. So in the power struggle, we're looking for what we can get out of the relationship and what that person has to do to meet my needs. So we have expectations, and then that begins the breakdown of a relationship. It's like the individuation process. First, we were all together. This is the rhythm of creation. First, we were all together. We were connected. We felt like we were one. Then we have to go through an individuation process where we trigger each other, where we show each other the weak points of all the voids that you have. And then we have to learn how to do the inner work to come into a relationship where we can show up as an adult and not, I need you for something, but I am embracing the fact that you are making me into the person that I need to be, which is called growth. Nobody gets married for growth because marriage is supposed to feel good.
So, are you saying that the whole reason for marriage is growth?
Yes, it's to grow into the person that you're meant to be. And that's why it says you're incomplete without the other person. It's an Ezer Kenegdai. It's you are helping, you're pulling out the parts that are working against me to reveal where my voids are, where my work is, in order for me to grow into a person that can feel fully whole and show up as your partner, not as me needing to be your father, you need to be my mother, or fill some sort of void that I have in my life that I perceive you're going to be able to give me, but to become the person that I'm ultimately meant to be. And you are the one that has shown me how to do that.
Okay. And so you said before, most people when they first get married, they get married because they want love, they want connection. You complete me. Are you saying all those things are wrong? Like they're the wrong reasons to get married, or in that stage, it's okay? Like what does that even mean?
I think the romantic stage is necessary because there has to be some sort of way that we go into the spell of needing to get married, because today you're seeing a lot of people, they're not getting married because they see what happens in marriages. The statistics are out. 60% of marriages don't last. People are scared. They had terrible versions of what they saw in marriage growing up between their parents. And I think the spell is necessary. The spell is necessary to be able to fall in love. What do you fall in love? It's like I'm going deep into the process of pushing away all the warning signs and the red flags and saying, you're the one for me. You don't even know the person. You just met the person. And for the Hasidic world or some of the Jewish Orthodox world, you literally just met the person.
Right.
And now you're going to say, I'm in love with you. Why do you go into that? Is because it's also that for a lot of us, the unconscious things that we go into are our soul nudging us in a certain direction to find our deepest tikkun, our deepest healing partner that we need. And we have to fall into that spell in order to go into marriage. And then really you have a lot of work here to do. Marriage is work. Marriage is growing into the person that you are. And then you can really love each other.
So let me get this straight. So what you're saying is every person has unmet needs, no matter how much they work on themselves. Those unmet needs are pushing them into this relationship so that this relationship should fill their unmet needs. But then once they're in the relationship and they go through that struggle, they find true love because they come into alignment with themselves. They have this inner love for themselves, and then they connect from a place of desire as opposed to a place from needs.
Yeah. And I would just add one thing to unmet needs is, Imago, which we're both worked on in that course for a year to become a Imago facilitator. We learned that Imago means image. It's a Greek word for image. Is I form subconscious images of my childhood. The reason I do that is because then I place those images onto my partner. Like I see that partner. Oh, I saw something in that partner that reminds me of my childhood. In an attempt to go back to your childhood and take all, not just the unmet needs, but to recreate the environment of my childhood in order to fix the childhood by having myself go after those needs in a more authentic way. I can't explain to you why I will marry this person, but she reminds me of someone, or I'm drawn towards her. Just it feels right. So it's a deep subconscious stored image to recreate the childhood environment to then meet my needs again, or an attempt to correct the needs that weren't met.
Okay. So is there anybody that could go into marriage that's perfectly aligned to themselves already? They did all this personal growth work before they got married, and now they get married. Is that, you're saying that's not something that happens?
I don't think that's the point of life. I think it's matching the rhythm of creation is like it always starts off connected, like you're in the womb, connected, all your needs are met, and then you're pushed out of the womb to individuate. You go through life and you're individuating. And how do you individuate is really most of the individuation process is all birthed through pain. The pain that you go through, we all go through pain in order to almost disconnect from yourself to come back into a real relationship with yourself, because you can't come back into a relationship yourself if you're unless you're out of relationship with yourself. You can't go into a place of working on yourself, which is what you would call the tikkun in this world. What's a tikkun? What do you have to fix? It's nothing broken. It's all perfect. If you're so perfect, what are you here for? What are you doing in this world? The whole idea of this world is to be misakin something, to be correcting something, to work through something, to go through a process. Now there are people like that are perfect, and those would be the holy sages, the tzaddikim, of course, because they're here to be a guiding light of what real truth looks like. But us regular guys, we're meant to go through painful things. You're meant to be disrespected by your wife, or at least that's what it feels like, or that your wife is not interested in you, or all these things are going on, and you're meant to work through those things. You're not meant to have the perfect marriage. And if you keep on telling yourself that you have the perfect marriage, all you're doing is you just have a band-aid on. You do things that temporarily work until you have to find another thing that temporarily works, until you have to until eventually the humbling day comes when you realize that things ain't perfect, and you have to feel your feelings, and you're getting triggered, and you're feeling disconnected, and you're going through a hard time, and you're not feeling emotionally there with your wife, and you're alone, and you find yourself spending more time with the boys than you do with your wife, or more time going out and davening and learning, whatever it is. And this woman is literally your second half, your best friend,
Right.
the one that you want to hear everything from and tell everything to, and you want to become one. And you notice that on paper, your life looks good, like you got a good life, but you're not connected. So everyone's got to go through that, I believe.
It's almost, I think what I'm hearing, or one of the points that I'm hearing, is that I my wife is guiding me back to myself. So when it comes to love, for example, if I keep expecting my wife to give me love, or if I keep expecting my wife to validate me and she doesn't, or she gets angry at me, the trigger that's talking to me is saying, Nachman, you have to love yourself. You don't love yourself enough. You're not validating yourself enough. And when I feel validated, and when I feel that inner love that I have for myself, and then I go back into relationship with my wife, it's not needy. It's a much cleaner relationship.
I think if you don't get your needs met, then you become a needy person. Like that's my
Right.
parish on needy.
Right.
If you're not meeting your needs, you're going to need from others. They're needy. If you could realize that you could start living life from a place of I could meet all my own needs, not by needing to be strong, but authentically feel that, then you approach your relationship from an adult relationship where you don't place your needs on your wife, then she's going to be head over heels for you
Right. And
because
then
she's not going
you're
to feel that you need anything from her.
right. 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 And that pertains to anything, to the bedroom, to day-to-day life, to being in the kitchen together, to driving in the car together. It's wow. Wow. That's very strong. Very strong.
And a lot of people will tell, you'll just be able to tell based on how they talk in relationship, because your speech is an expression of where you're at, is I need you to be home at this time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or I need you to do this and this and that. And, you know, not everyone wants to check their words and be so calculated and careful, but words hold weight. So that word validates my inner experience and it carries a feeling with it, a void, a wound, a hardship. So I think if we're aware of our speech, we could also be aware of where we're at. And sometimes our spouses are going to tell you, you really need me to do that for you, to remind you,
Right.
because it's important to check yourself.
So right. So anytime I get triggered, really, my wife is being my best friend. I don't want to hear it, so I'll run away to the boys or I'll run away to Shul. But if I really want to change things about my relationship, I need to face it. I need to take it on the chin and look into myself and see what's going on for me.
And that's phase 3, which is real love, which is I no longer am taking the message that you're saying as an attack on me, but I'm taking it as a teacher that's helping guide me to be the person that I need to be,
Mm.
with humility
Right.
and with real desire to connect with you. And really, because if all you hear from your wife underneath her whole message when she's telling you off is a deeper message, just be here with me, or listen to me, or validate me, or I just want to be connected with you. If you could like tune into the emotional frequency of what the void is, what she really wants, and you take it, not just take it on the chin, but you take it as this needs to happen to me because this is my mirror. My wife is my mirror. You've now entered the phase of real love where you can really love your wife.
Mm.
Because real love means it doesn't matter what she says. She doesn't have to change. People think that people need to start speaking or doing things differently. The circumstance needs to change for me to love you. You need to start acting this way and doing this. You can't talk to me this way. No, that's not called real love. That's all your conditions that you have placed on the love of how it can be experienced. And that's you. You've met your own limits. That's your limit.
Right. Right. So you're saying there's a shift, or there's these levels. There's the power struggle, and then there's real love. And what does it take, or what's the shift that turns a man from that second level of power struggle into that place of deep love? Like how do I what do I need to do as a man, or and that's one question. And the second part of the question is, whatever it is that I need to do, what ends up happening? Like what's that key, that shift that happens that moves me into that stage?
So there's, it's just really one word, and it's what us as men are all afraid to do, and it's called vulnerability. Is your wife is, why is she triggering you? Because she's bringing you into your vulnerable parts. As a man, we're told to be strong. It's a big thing for men. But if I could allow myself to meet my little boy inside me, who's this wounded little kid, or this someone who's not having everything together and not strong, your wife is like, okay, you've arrived when you become vulnerable. And you've met her in her frequency of relationship. And most men don't want to do that. So they, like I said, they suffer in silence and they do things alone. They become okay with being alone. And a man's number one thing for producing love towards themselves is how successful they are. So oxytocin gets released in the bloodstream for a man when he is successful. A woman needs connection to release oxytocin. So imagine someone's focused on success and someone's focused on connection. It's like almost like running after him
Right.
and he's running away. And if the woman tells the man how much of a success or helps meet that need, the man wants to connect more with the woman. So we can play into the ultimate love language of what we each need. And it's a growth for each of us, because what we're doing is we're going into a place where we don't normally belong. I'm in connection, I'm in success, and we're being there with the success and bringing out the success more by being proud of your husband for what he does. And if a man comes and is vulnerable and gets connected and gets rid of the success and the ego and needing to be strong and just, hey, I'm really feeling anxiety at work these days, or whatever it is, or the last month was crazy in terms of the expenses. I'm just feeling it a lot. Or this guy said this thing to me at work today and it was tough. Then he goes into those places, the woman sees how more of a success. So it's like a nice loop where you can, either of you can plug into that. But for a man, that's the most difficult place to be.
So that loop could either be a very healthy loop where the woman compliments her husband with the success. The man keeps on wanting to be successful because he wants to provide for his wife and he wants to connect to his wife. And when he connects to his wife keeps coming back to him and showing him how much she's appreciative of his success. But that also could be the total opposite, where the man is so focused on success, the woman's so focused on connection, and they just keep on banging heads and they just cannot figure out that loop.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's where the shift is, when the man recognizes the woman and the woman recognizes the man.
I was saying this to someone else today, a client of mine. I was saying to get to the next level of phase 3, it doesn't just take inner work. It takes vulnerability, which we said, but it takes you really putting yourself in the other person's shoes. And if you don't get connection and all you get is success, you have to get connection like you get success, and vice versa. You got to go into this person's shoes and emotionally feel whatever it is that they're talking about. When you put on someone else's shoes, like someone, if your kid comes to you, I remember one of my friends, he was the Shabbos Abba one week, and he came home to his father, and he's like, Abba, I'm the Shabbos Abba, and his father was like so busy, and he was just like, whatever, and just like brushed it off, and that kid literally from that day, frozen time,
Wow.
that my father does not care about my accomplishments, and I'm a nobody basically. And it seemed like a simple thing, and then life validated that, and eventually he has to come out of it and work on it. And his father really didn't mean that, and his father was just doing his thing. But it's so important to be emotionally in tune in the relationship, because that's that's where you graduate to the next level, because relationship happens in the heart. On paper we could be good together, but we're just not connected.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means I got to go into the work of the heart, which is the emotional frequency of where they're at. Like when a man doesn't have success and he feels like a loser, like how does his wife show up to him? Does she start kicking his whatever and tell him go out and do stuff? Or is she realizing this guy's depleted and he needs some encouragement and love, and just to know that, you know, she believes in him. And when this woman is complaining about not having enough time with him, instead of him saying, you're always complaining, is realize that she just wants to connect and to help her in that, because that's what a woman ultimately wants. And that's what fills her love tank. And that's what a man ultimately wants. And I start working on my emotions that aren't allowing me to get there. And that takes vulnerability.
Wow, that's a very this last point that you made is a very good point. It's about stepping into her shoes and she's stepping into my shoes, and instead of complaining about it, but just realizing it and being aware of it and validating it, and And what we're saying is that a man needs to work on his vulnerability. So that being said, where is he supposed to work on his vulnerability? I know we probably brought this up before. Where is he supposed to work on his? Should he always be vulnerable with his wife?
So I think things have to come in doses. You can't just one day just rip off the band-aid and just start crying in front of your wife. I think it takes time, it's short steps, and I think it starts with doing it with other men because there's a certain resonance of what I'm going through and what you're going through and what we're all going through as men. So, as you know, we do that. We do group work with people, whether in a workshop space or just on a regular basis. We just meet up and do that and practice vulnerability so I can go home and be okay to be vulnerable with my wife. And yeah, it's small steps that allow me to create change. And those small steps are starting to just share your feelings, starting to just talk about what's going on in your life, what's going
Mm.
on internally for you, how are you showing up to life, getting people better at really acknowledging the inside.
Wow. Wow. And
How
I think the world is waking up to that right now. I think there's more and more people that are doing that work. Not like our parents' generation, which it wasn't so common.
definitely this generation is more into their feelings. And I think that the feelings are making life more real, which also brings us more into the reality of what life is all about. I think it's like preparing us for the ultimate redemption is okay, now you have this idea of God, let's just say, and then you have an embodiment of God. Well, how do you embody God? Through the feelings, because feelings are exist above time and space. They're not just limited to a moment. Like I can close my eyes, think about my wife, and I can feel love. How do you feel that she's not here? Because above time and space. And so we want to be able to feel something that's above time and space. What's that? Godliness. It's, and it doesn't always make sense. And that's how we relate to a God that doesn't make sense in our mind, but is a feeling. And that's really what Mashiach consciousness is, I believe, is the reality that we know in our minds becomes an embodiment process. I feel it. I feel that this is actually true.
So the feeling that I have in my body, it's almost like I create it from the inside out,
What does that mean?
meaning that I'm manifesting the life that I want. So whatever I'm feeling in my body, whatever is going on for me, is going to be reflected by what my life looks like.
Yeah, it's a deep concept, but I believe that in a relationship, you get whatever you feel you deserve. Let's just say a relationship between me and my wife, whatever you feel you deserve is exactly what you're going to get. Otherwise, you're going to tell your wife to meet your needs. And the reason you feel you deserve that is because your feelings around the relationships in general have been not worked through fully. So again, you're meeting your wife from a place of meeting my needs. You work through your feelings. The vision that you had of what marriage is supposed to be like became broken down in 2 seconds once you woke up the next morning with your wife. It literally became broken down, all the
Right.
things of what you thought could be, and slowly you learn that. And then now I got to take the vision and bring it into the body that you feel that way. And the feeling are the biggest catalyst of change in life. Because the only reason that you can't create the relationship that you want with your wife is because you don't actually feel inside of you connected to that vision. And to feel connected to that vision, you have to work through all the feelings and the hurt that aren't allowing you to be open to that. Your heart's been closed, you're playing the power struggle, you're protecting yourself, you're blaming here, you're looking at her being the problem, but your heart's not open for relationship. So you've closed it up until she opens you up. Hopefully she'll save you. She's not your savior. You do the work on the feelings and then you literally start manifesting it as whatever you thought that you really wanted, what you came into this marriage becomes your reality.
Wow.
And that's because you feel that you deserve that because you work through all the things that have told you don't deserve it. All the hurt, the pain, the blockages, the struggles, the belief systems that have limited your experience of life that you got from the world and that you carried into your marriage from your childhood. You let go of all that, you work through all the dysfunction in your heart, you get the marriage that you ultimately dreamed for. So the marriage happens in the heart. That's where it's like anything that you throw at me, I take it, I work through it, and I come back to you, makes the relationship stronger. And my heart's more open now because if I could work through one struggle, I could work through another, I could work through another, and all those struggles that I work through end up becoming my strength in love. And I don't need to close up again. And I don't need to block the message anymore. I could take it. But that is right there the graduation from the power struggle to the real love, because the part that I need to work out is the inside, and the inside that's not worked out is my feelings.
Well, so I was going to ask a question, but I think you sort of answered it, or maybe give clarity. Um, it seems like there's a lot of work to do, but, and you said it, when I do work and I come back into relationship, it's a much sweeter, enjoyable, connecting relationship. So in a certain sense, it's not work. Because I was going to ask, okay, it sounds like a lot of work. Okay, my wife triggers me. I have to work on it. I have to go to a men's group, or I have to go to like a psychiatrist or a therapist or a coach. And I'm always working on myself. And how long do I have to work on myself? That's a question that people ask. Or even, yeah. So I think you're answering it. It's not work. It gets to that point where you're enjoying the process.
Yeah, I think also that it could be work, but there's some people that enjoy their work that they go to every day,
Right.
and
Right.
they know that that work is challenging enough to bring me into a certain experience. So I'll put in the work because I know even if a small benefit, like you go to the gym as work,
Right.
but you feel better about yourself at the end of the day. And maybe that feeling is going to last a lot longer because there's a certain accomplishment in going to that. It's I don't think that people don't want to do the work in marriage. I think a lot of them are just afraid of it, afraid of what's going to come up and what they have to face, and meeting their insecurities and admit their vulnerabilities.
Suppose most people would rather keep it stuffed down than
Yeah, they want
open up, and because I need to be a man.
tell yourself that you have a good life.
Hmm.
They really need to do is feel connected to what they're saying, feel
Right.
that that's the truth.
So,
Most people don't.
right. And then that comes back to haunt them later in life because that's going to hurt their relationship.
Yeah, I can tell you this that in my own relationship, whenever I've pretended like I was in a good place, it's not, it doesn't serve it.
It's not real.
It just keeps you blocked, it keeps you disconnected, and your relationship, there's tension there.
Intention is there to serve you, to push you, to guide you. Okay, so a lot of good information here. What do you say to the guy that's given up on love? Whether it's he thinks that he was forced to marry this woman, he didn't have a choice, he really just doesn't see any future.
So there was once a story that someone came into the Rebbe and said they're married or they're engaged to a goy, and the Rebbe turned to him, and this is a story that I heard. And the Rebbe said, "I'm jealous of you. What are you jealous of me? Because I never had to face this challenge, and Hashem gave you such a strong power to be able to face this challenge that you must be a very powerful soul." And I think that if we could start recognizing that in the challenge that you're facing, no matter how big it is, in the opposite spectrum, you're meeting, however big the challenge is, however big you are, and the greatness of who you are, and you've lost touch with that. It doesn't seem like a marriage should work in this situation right? It might be a little bit of new knowledge to the viewers over here, but I went into a marriage with a woman who lost her husband and had 2 kids. I went in a losing space. Like the chance of that relationship working is slim to none.
Right,
And
because she's still attached to her old husband and she has the kids, distractions.
the odds are
So,
against me. You
wow.
don't even know what you're getting into.
Right.
Do you have any idea what you're getting into? So a guy gets set up and whatever, he's with this woman and he thinks, oh, this is not who I'm meant to be with. Well, there's also the idea of divine providence. Why am I with this woman? And you're waking up to being able to work on yourself and realizing this was destiny, and you start embracing destiny, then the relationship becomes possible.
Wow.
So my relationship became possible when I woke up to my own possibility of who I am. So I'm speaking to the guy that was in a very low place in his own life and was ready to be down and out and given up. That's the advice that I gave to myself, and that's the advice that I would give to somebody else. I think we all meet that point in relationship at some point where we're like, there's no way I can make this work. Sometimes that's the rock bottom or the beginning of the awakening.
Wow. Wow. So one last question. Um, what's one silent epidemic that you noticed amongst men that are high achieving?
It's lonely at the top. I would say loneliness is, it's nice to be a guy. I know a lot of guys who are successful, very focused on making money, and it's easier to be alone and do things and hang out at the top and isolate yourself from the world. And I think what those people need is like, it's a special kind of ache inside of me when your bank account's full, but your heart is actually empty. And when, let's say, the applause is loud, like everyone's like cheering you on, and they're like, even on social media, they're like, hey, look at that guy, and all the momentum and direction is in that person's, going that person's way, and they're building followers, but nobody actually knows who the real person is. I think for a lot of men, they feel alone and they're doing things alone. And they might feel like they have these Facebook friends, but in reality, they just want connection. And it's something that we really need is to be a well balanced person. You need to balance out the feminine emotional side of you to stay in connection with the truth
Mm,
of who you are and not get lost in only needing success or chasing something, and be okay to be with yourself, be okay to be with whatever is, and not need to run after the next big thing. And
right.
so loneliness is big. And I think we do great at that is by bringing people together. They don't have to feel alone. And we need support as men. And we need to be able to feel connected. So, to anybody watching out there, is like life starts, real relationship starts when you start having a relationship with the inside. And that's what's going to take you to the next best version of yourself to be able to meet all the challenges that you're facing with the bigness of who you are.
Wow. A lot of good information today. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good information. Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure.